All right, guys, so we're going to start off today's technique. I'm going to prep it using the Paul Mitchell Invisible Wear Volume Whip. The thing I like about this product, it's got a really natural hold, but it's a great cutting lotion in a way as well. And I know a lot of people talk about cutting lotions. I think it's really any product that's going to benefit your guest's hair because any product's going to give you a slight bit more control when parting the hair and sectioning. So our sections are going to be simple. It's basically a center part, and then it goes straight down center back, and then we do the division point, which is high point of the head down to behind the ear. So basically the 4 quadrants that you learn in beauty school are how we're going to section off this cut. We're going to do a very basic one length cut pretty much. That's going to start off. What that's going to do is give us that harsh line. Then we're going to go in and blow dry it and do some dry cutting to create the layering. So pretty easy haircut, pretty standard haircut. We're going to start off, I'm using the YS Park 334 comb. It's a little bit of a wider comb, but it still has nice tight teeth, so it's great for precision cutting. My scissor choice for this cut is my DB20 5.7 inch Mizutani scissor. The thing I love about the DB20 is it has a ball bearing screw, so it's got a really nice open and close to it, stays consistent all the time. And then also it's nano powder metal steel, which is a softer metal, and it basically is a more consistent metal. Not necessarily softer, because people get freaked out by the word softer. It's more consistent, so you get a better grip on the hair when you go to cut it. Basically, the way that I was described is that it's the same technology as making a Blu-ray disc. So think about that when you got a laser going over it. If the metal isn't, or if the particles aren't consistent in that, you're going to get all the skipping and all of that. So if you think about a scissor, you want all the particles to be the same. So nano powder metal is just basically saying it uses really small particles that are identical to help make up the scissor metal, so you get a nice crisp cut. A lot of people like a buttery feel to their haircuts, but that honestly, the buttery feel is the hair pushing a little bit. So I like to have that grip on the hair when I'm cutting. So to talk about the haircut, basically what we're doing is I'm using comb tension to hold the hair down and cut it at where it lives. For the most part in the back, I just took small sections, worked my way up horizontally, and cut across. I'm doing the same thing on the sides. What this is going to do is give me that blunt edge that I talked about in the very beginning. I love that blunt feel of this haircut. And then I love the layers that fall on top of it. So what we're doing, like I said, we're going to go through, cut this blunt edge first, wet, because we're going to get our hardest lines cutting the hair wet because it bulks the hair together, pushes the hair together, and then you get much crisper lines than when you do it with dry hair. Now I'm going to go in, I'm using the Paul Mitchell Neuro Blow Dryer and my Ergo Diamond Head Brush. This is a mini paddle brush. It's one of my favorite brushes out there. If you're like me and you love using a paddle brush, this is such a great brush for medium to short length hair because you get the same effect as a paddle brush, but it's just easier because it's a smaller brush going in. Now I'm using the Paul Mitchell Neuro Flat Iron just to iron the hair out. I know that at the end of this, we're going to have a more wavy appearance to the look, but I want to smooth the hair out for the cut. So I go through, I smooth it out. You can see the blunt edge on the haircut. And now I part it in the center. I take diagonal forward partings. I bring them across the face. And then I'm going to do a tease cutting technique to start my curtain fringe. So I've done a video on this in the past. But the thing that I love most about this technique is that you get those jagged edges and it's not a harsh line. So when you're looking for a more soft razored kind of effect using a scissor, this is such a great technique for that. So about a 1-inch movement back and forth using the tease cutting technique. And now here's the trick. I go in, I move into vertical partings once I get to the side of the head, but then I take from the parietal ridge over and I disconnect the top from the bottom. So the disconnection that happens on the bottom, the reason I like to do that, where I cut it right there, the reason I like to do that is because that keeps my blunt, thick edge on the bottom, but then layers everything from parietal ridge up. So you get that movement in the haircut, but you keep your blunt edge on the bottom, which is, to me, the kind of secret behind this haircut. Also, I'm over-directing everything forward above the head. And what that's doing is it's layering, but it's also pushing the weight towards the back of the head, so she still has that longer hair. A lot of people with this length of hair like to go in with a wand iron and curl their hair around it. If you take the hair too short throughout the entire haircut, they're not going to get that same effect. So the thing I liked about this cut and what kind of inspired me to do it was the fact that it had that nice wave throughout the cut, had a lot of texture to it. So that's what we're going for. I want to keep that length in the back so that she can get an iron around it. So again, take the vertical parting and then cut it right around the parietal ridge, and that will separate the top and the bottom. This comb that I'm using here, this is the YS Park 337, I believe. Thing I like about that, it's wide tooth. So I use a wide tooth comb when I go in dry cutting, and I use a more fine tooth comb when I go in with the precision cutting. So here is the Neuro angle. Again, it's patent pending, so the technology is Paul Mitchell's. It's got an extra long barrel, which is great for working the hair. If you think about those really tight curls that you get with a wand, sometimes it's because you can't stretch the hair out when working with it. It also heats up to 450 degrees. I never recommend that. We're going to take it up to about 375 to keep the hair nice and healthy. And also, it's got that isotherm titanium, which helps speed up the heat. But the great thing about this iron and irons that are made of this titanium and have this kind of technology is that it stays consistent throughout the barrel. It doesn't keep getting hotter and fry the hair. So we're also using the Neuro Style Protect. This came in the box, so I had a little mini version of it. So I wanted to use it on the hair. I love this because you spray it on the hair. It's a thermal protectant. I love the application of a dry thermal protectant when it goes on the hair dry, because obviously I feel like it's doing more work that way as opposed to just putting it in wet hair. So you can kind of double it up, put a little heat seal on it when it's wet, and then keep protecting it through the dry. And it has a nice little hold to it as well. This is where I want to show you guys, as I'm going through here, you see I have it cocked at basically a 90, let's say it's a 90-degree angle. The cool thing about this is my elbow. You can see it's just resting. So I'm not shoving my arm up in the air when I'm trying to work on the one side of the head. It's also great for people that do their hair at home, to style their hair at home, and they want to use an iron. So this is a great sell for your guests as well when you're working in the salon. I'm finishing up with the Invisible Wear Orbit Hairspray. It's got a nice dry finish to it. Natural hold, it's not real firm. It still kind of tends and goes well with this textured look that we have here.